Chapter 15 Pieces of 8. So much feeling had been aroused by the Leisler hanging that New York was more or less turbulent for years. It was a restless little city full of the spirit of adventure, sometimes of violence. Many races jostled each other in the streets, and as these same races were fighting in Europe, it was natural that they should quarrel here. Everything was new, the future uncertain, and the frequent changes of flag had been unsettling. Governor Fletcher, who had succeeded Sloughter, was an Episcopalian, and under his encouragement, Trinity Church was established where it now stands, on a corner of the old West India Company's Bowery. During the construction, many prominent citizens made donations of their money or service. Among them, one Captain William Kidd, a highly esteemed merchant whose packet plied between New York and London, and whose comfortable home in Hanover Square boasted the first Turkish rug ever imported, lent his runner and tackle for the worthy cause. Neither the political struggles between Governor Fletcher and the Assembly over appropriations, nor the repeal by Parliament of the famous Bolting Act, which the citizens claimed would spell poverty and ruin, could stay the growing prosperity of the city. Some magic transformation was affecting its appearance. The little space New York then occupied below Wall Street began to fill up with fine new brick mansions of 3 or even 4 stories, containing such luxuries as heavy Spanish silver plate, carved ivories from the Orient, and odd fabrics from Madagascar. Men who traded over the seas began to wear more silver buttons and finer brocaded coats and to live like potentates. Nor was this quite all. In and out of the taverns along the Strand swaggered bold-eyed men whose heavy earrings and long dirks, half-sheathed in a flaring boot or wide sash, must have seemed out of place in the drawing-rooms of Broadway and Wall Street, where, it is said, these pirates appeared. The Leislerian party, which had somehow succeeded in getting Robert Livingston to represent its interests in London, insisted on the recall of Governor Fletcher. Just how far he connived at the spread of piracy was never established. It is known that he often entertained a notorious buccaneer named Tew at the Executive Mansion, and it was suspected that not all of Mrs. Fletcher's gems had gone through the customs. But for an incident quite unrelated to the governor, King William might not have taken action in the matter of piracy, for it was a practice that long years of sea-fighting had made fairly acceptable in good society. Some of the best people in New York were engaged in it, but it so happened that the treasure ship of a powerful Indian Rajah had been seized, so that it became urgent upon King William to make some demonstration against privateering. As there were no funds in Parliament for fitting up an offensive, Lord Bellomont, Robert Livingston, and others suggested to the king that he should authorize a private undertaking, in which he should have a share of the profits when pirates were captured and their booty seized. It sounded well, and at the recommendation of Bellomont and Livingston, the worthy Captain Kidd, whose runner and tackle were used in the building of Trinity Church, was selected. He was fitted out with a frigate, well named the Adventure, the King's seal, and a nondescript crew of 90 men. Lord Bellomont was appointed governor in place of Fletcher, and King William gave him instructions to stamp out piracy. Scarcely had his troubles begun when word reached New York that Captain Kidd, the supposed foe of the buccaneer, had himself hoisted the black flag and was now the terror of the seas. The stockholders of the Adventure, from the king down, found themselves in a distressing predicament. There might be some rich dividends, but these were going to require much explanation if the facts leaked out. When this state of affairs had lasted much too long for royal comfort, King William issued a proclamation offering pardon to reformed pirates, but making a special exception in the case of one William Kidd. Then suddenly Kidd appeared on Gardiner's Island, where much of his treasure was supposed to have been buried, and from there sent word to Bellomont asking for his protection. Bellomont assured him of this if he could explain his conduct, and the captain walked into the trap. The explanation was a story of mutiny on the part of the crew, in an effort to suppress which Kidd had struck down his mate. Bellomont clapped him in chains and sent him to London to stand trial. To get him disposed of without involving his royal backers was the chief purpose of that farcical trial. In consequence, he was hurriedly hanged at Execution Dock on the first charge, that of having killed his mate. The charge of piracy was not gone into too deeply, for reasons which doubtless seemed adequate to the prosecutor representing the Crown.